The Dark Knight movies are some of the most beloved Batman movies ever made. And believe me, if anybody knows that, it's me. Because I've found if you're the least bit critical of these films, or I guess more accurately, 2 out of 3 of these films, because there is one that just about nobody cares about. But if you are critical of the first 2 films in this 3-film series, well then everybody loses their mind. It's a trilogy that's filled to the brim with villains. So much so that a lot of them are easy to forget. Sometimes even I have to be reminded that a few famous figures have made appearances in the Dark Knight trilogy. You've got some less fondly remembered bad guys, like Joe Chill, Carmine Falcone, and Sal Maroni, and then you get characters that are just completely forgotten, like Victor Zsasz. But did you know that villains like the Riddler and the Penguin had made appearances in the Dark Knight films? Well, according to some fans on the internet, a place where fiction can be spoken and written so many times that it just becomes accepted fact, a lot more of Batman's rogues gallery was present within the background of these movies. Take for example the previously mentioned Salvatore Maroni, played in these movies by forever perpetual bad guy Eric Roberts, a character from the comics who acts as the head of the Maroni crime family. This character is probably the most famous mobster in Gotham City, not named Carmine Falcone, taking over the throne from his father Luigi and going to war with Don Falcone. He's also had Tony Zuko serve as an underling of his, a man who would play a pivotal role in the origins of Robin. Maroni's an important character for sure, but he's not a full-blown supervillain. However, for one reason or another, and I will give you all one of them, there is a section of the fan base that believes that Salvatore Maroni in this line of films would go on to become the series' Penguin. Why? Well, when Batman was interrogating Maroni, he drops him from several stories, shattering his leg and causing him to walk with a limp throughout the rest of the movie. And there is another very famous foe of Batman's who also walks with a limp. So there's a couple things that don't really work with this theory. For starters, he could never go on to become the series' Penguin, because he doesn't get to go on. He dies. Two-Face very blatantly kills him, though some would argue that Two-Face should be dead as well, so if he survived that, then maybe the only person who didn't survive that is the driver. Then there's also this fact playing against him that he is not the Penguin, he is Salvatore Maroni. He doesn't need to become another character, he already is one. Now granted, in the first film, Liam Neeson played the part of Henry Ducard, a pre-established mentor to Bruce Wayne, but that would later go on to be revealed as a ruse from Ra's al Ghul, the man's true identity, who is yet another pre-established mentor to Bruce Wayne. So this decision doesn't come without rhyme or reason. Both men played the same role in Batman's backstory, so combining them to condense down on his origins makes a whole lot of sense. In contrast, there's nothing to gain by turning Salvatore Maroni into Oswald Cobblepot. It would serve no narrative purpose whatsoever. However, while this is typically spoken as a theory, and accepted as such, the following is completely accepted as fact at this point in time, to the point where multiple sources cite this as such, and act as if it was the intention of the creators. In The Dark Knight, a new Wayne Enterprises employee by the name of Coleman Reese enters the picture. For the most part, Coleman is pretty much whatever the movie version of an NPC is. A glorified extra, who does in fact kind of play into the plot, but he's less of a character and more of a plot device. He's more of an obstacle than he is a person. He's one of the many people who become pawns in the Joker's plans. But what's significant about him is that during the movie's runtime, Reese manages to discover the Dark Knight's secret identity, and utilizing this, he tries to blackmail Batman, until he's ultimately dismayed by a very thinly veiled threat and promise from Lucius Fox. But because he was able to detect the world's greatest detective, much like the character from the comics had, being one of the very few people to ever figure out Batman's secret identity, it led to a lot of fans believing him to in fact be this villain. Additionally, the character's name, Mr. Reese, is thought to be a play on the word mysteries. And while this is not the character's name, it does most certainly fit the character's motif.
Mr. E. Mystery. And another name for mystery?
Enigma.
Mr. Enigma. Edward Nigma.
There's also those that suggest that the first name Coleman is supposed to mean Clue Man. Okay, that's clever. Truth be told, these are solid sounding points. I can admit that all of that sounds fairly legitimate, so much so that multiple sources will cite this theory as fact. However, on today's episode of Mythbusters, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. A really good case against this alleged fact is that before it was decided that Bane would be the movie's next big bad, they toyed with the idea of the Riddler being the movie's main antagonist. As a matter of fact, Jonathan Nolan, brother of Chris and one of the writers of this trilogy, was pushing for this part to be in the finale, with no intentions of bringing this actor back into the role. As a matter of fact, the head of Warner Brothers was pushing for Leonardo DiCaprio to play the villain in question. Emphasis on question. While the internet was campaigning for the likes of Johnny Depp, David Tennant, Neil Patrick Harris,
Kiss the Barney Stone!
Look, it's the Riddler!
That's not the Riddler.
or even Jim Parsons in the part. There were never any plans to further use this character and make him the Riddler, nor was the intent of creative to make him an allusion to the character. Though there is some precedent for stuff like that, considering that in The Dark Knight Rises, in a very similar vein, the character of John Blake was created to represent Robin. Yet the internet states this theory as its fact so often that it's become accepted as such. This was never the vision. This is a fan theory that has been glorified over the years. And look, if you want to retcon him as the Riddler for your own headcanon, I say go for it. It's a fun notion. Similar to how the Tim Burton Batman series eventually got its own follow-up comic series, I would say that what we already know about this character could make for good grounds of calling him the Riddler. That's a neat creative concept that has some merit to it. But to say that this already is the Riddler in The Dark Knight is a false notion that has been widely spread. These movies have a variety of villains, but these ain't them. With that being said, if you liked this video and would like to see more Dark Knight videos here on the channel, let me know in the comment section below by leaving a comment saying,
Any final riddles, Riddler?
I am vengeance. I am the night, and that was V Infuso. Just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out.
So, if you like the words that came out of his mouth hole, and you too would like to become a V-generate, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, nerds!
And if you're not joining the fun, you're in for one bad day. And you know what they say about having one bad day?
Catch him next time. Same bat time, same bat channel.